everybody. We are live here at Dog is Good on Wednesday, November the 8th. Can you believe that we are in November already? And tomorrow when you wake up and blink, it's really going to be Christmas. I don't even think Thanksgiving even exists anymore, even though it's my favorite holiday. So I am excited about our guest today, Tracy Krulik. You guys are in for some very, very, very important information. All of us have dogs, and we're always trying to figure them out, and some of us do better than others for various reasons, but she is a wealth of knowledge, and you're going to walk away by the end of this conversation with a better understanding of what is going on with your dog or with your friend's dogs or whoever, and more importantly, a better way to be working with them or handling them or interacting with them and keeping them safe and maintaining the relationship that you have, which is the most important thing. Is ensuring that there is a wonderful trust and bond built on mutual respect for the life of your dog. So I'll be introducing Tracy in just a second, and I want to, Jenny's on, Jenny Spring McPherson. So I want to ask you guys right now, because this is really important stuff, to go ahead and share this and invite your friends to come watch this interview live. Of course, everybody can see it in the replay, but we want to encourage you guys to do it live. You know, come on, it's midday wherever you are, or late in the afternoon, you need a break. You want to get your friends on and relax and get some good information. And there's just a few housekeeping things I want to share with you. Number one, I want to invite you to join the Dog is Good Lifestyle group. It's our private group, and you want to join because we are having a party on Thursday. That would be tomorrow at 4 p.m. PST. We did a spur of the moment a couple weeks ago. We had no idea that you guys are going to go so crazy. And so we had so much fun. We're going to do it again. It's a live party. It is full of games and giveaways and freebies and discounts and just, I mean, it's fun. Like, you do not want to miss this. So get there and sign up to RSVP for that. Secondly, I want to let you know about our giveaways. So we will be providing a link in a second, if it's not already in there, to enter to win. What we are giving away this week is, it's all fun and games. Let's see, get the glare out of there. It's all fun and games until someone ends up in a cone, magnet, and tote bag. And if I can be so bold, I will share with you. This lovely tote is 100% cotton canvas. It is fully lined with a zipper pocket and a magnetic closure. And more importantly, you look so rockin' awesome when you are wearing it. So it's great for you. Or if you have a veterinarian or vet tech in your life that you want to give this to as a gift, it would be a great gift too. So you got to enter to win. We'll announce the winner in the private Facebook group. And Tracy is kindly donating both a t-shirt from iSpeakDog and 30-minute conversation with her. So after you listen to her brilliance and expertise, and you know some of you may be having challenges with your own dog, one lucky winner will get the opportunity to talk privately with her 30 minutes and hopefully get some help and some insights into the challenges that you might be facing. So, okay, I see I got quite a few people on here, but I have no clue who you are or where you are. So feel free to just introduce yourself as you're going along. I can actually multitask really well, talk to you and read the stuff at the same time. So love to know where you're at, and really want to thank you too for taking the time to tune in, because this is a really great topic. So anyway, I want to introduce our guest, Tracy Krulik, who I met at a conference, and I was just so impressed with her background and her expertise and how she presents herself and her knowledge base that I definitely wanted to share her with all of you. So I'm going to give you a little bit of brief background. And because I am actually in need of reading glasses, I'm going to actually put those on to read her bio for you. So Tracy Krulik, happy dogs, happy people. That is her goal. She is a certified dog trainer and a behavior consultant. She helps individuals and their pets live harmoniously together. And as a writer and editor, she's able to share the latest information on science-based, humane approaches to dog care and training with people across the globe. Thank goodness for modern technology. She is an honors graduate of the prestigious Academy for Dog Trainers, and she is the founding and managing editor of iSpeakDog. And we're going to give you the email or the website addresses for all of these so you can look it up. iSpeakDog is a website and public awareness campaign that promotes dog body language and behavior education. She writes for publications including the Washington Post and Bark Magazine, and will be the pets columnist for the upcoming magazine Alexandria Living, which launches next year. Having helped her own pup, Emma the Beagle, overcome many phobias and anxiety, including the fear of being left home alone. Anybody deal with separation anxiety? Tracy is now certified as a separation anxiety trainer. She is an expert at this, and she's done so to help dogs around the world to feel safe and happy too. So Tracy, welcome. Thank you so much for taking time out today to talk with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to do this.
Okay, I am too. And so I want to let all of you guys watching know that at any point, I want you to be popping in your questions because we're going to be asking, like, what are you dealing with the most as far as the most challenging? So one of the first questions I wanted to ask you, because I get asked this a lot myself as a trainer, what is the difference between a dog trainer and a behaviorist?
Well, a behaviorist is actually, in the United States at least, the behaviorist is somebody with a PhD who has studied dog behavior. Most dog trainers and behavior consultants that you find are actually not PhDs, but they have studied, had a hands-on, work with dogs, teach them to do all the things that we want our dogs to do, to be polite and happy and fun, and also to help troubleshoot challenges that we may face so that everybody can live together happier. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. I mean, people ask me all the time, and there really is kind of a difference in terms of the behaviors really diving in much deeper, often handling more challenging behaviors. Not that trainers don't, but there is a little bit of a difference there. So I want to start really with your background. Like, what made you pursue a career in training? And secondly, what was it about Emma on a deeper level that, turned your focus really heavily into the area of separation anxiety and some of those more challenging behaviors?
I was a professional writer, freelancing for magazines and newspapers when I adopted Emma. And she just was completely shut down in terror. She was a puppy mill rescue. She was completely terrified. She was too scared to leave the house, but she was too scared to be left home alone. And I worked with a variety of trainers. I worked with vets. I worked with nutritionists. I worked with all these professionals to help Emma come out of her shell and be able to function. And I kept hitting walls because there's a lot of misinformation floating the internet, the books, TV, about how to care for dogs and how to live with dogs. And so the writer in me wanted to learn more about this. What is this misinformation? What is the right information? I know there's a way to help this girl. Where is it? Where's that information? And so I basically went on a hunt to find ways to help Emma. And more and more and more, the more that I learned, I eventually became a student in Gene Donaldson's Academy for Dog Trainers, and started working with the best in the business. And what was really interesting is so many people that I encounter who have made a career out of doing the things that I do, which is helping fearful dogs overcome their fears. Most of us started out the same way. There was this one dog that changed our lives, and that was Emma for me. Watching her go from shut down in terror to this goofy, joyful, happy, loving, amazing girl. I mean, it's addicting. So to be able to help other dogs do the same thing, to help people find that inner joy in their dogs as well, it's an amazing thing to do.
It is amazing to do, and I can imagine not only for yourself, but as you've been able to help other people deal with the very same thing. It's almost, I would imagine it be incredibly emotional to watch a dog transform from such a difficult state of being to a place where they can literally enjoy life. And as a result, your life is enhanced too, because there's a lot of stress involved on both ends. The stress that the dog is experiencing, but then also the stress of the pet owner, the dog, the parent, if you will, and watching and feeling helpless on those. I'm imagining a lot of people actually feel helpless and don't know what to do. So, having your services is really critical.
I will be honest. It's, as much, you're absolutely right. I mean, as rewarding as it is to help a fearful dog overcome their fears, fear is really difficult. It's incredibly easy for anybody, any animal, dog, human, cat, whatever, to become afraid of something. But the process of helping change that fear, helping them overcome that fear, can be a very long, slow process, and you need to have a lot of patience and a ton of empathy, and it can be draining. I am incredibly fortunate that by finding my way into the Academy for Dog Trainers and to the other organizations like the Pet Professional Guild where I volunteer, I'm surrounded by so many people who've experienced the same thing that it's like it's we can get through it. We can help each other out and to survive the days that, okay, the dog just isn't feeling well emotionally or physically, but we can all get through it, and to have that support network is really, really important.
No, I totally agree. And one of the things I wanted to tell everybody too, as we continue to have this conversation with Tracy, we're talking a little bit about separation anxiety right at this moment, but there are so many other core behaviors that we're going to be covering in which you guys experience something, at least one of these things, and really how you need to, you will learn to best interpret that, better understand the body language that your dog is providing, be able to evaluate the context in which these things are occurring, so you know better how to react or engage with your dog or another dog if that might be the case. But Tracy, you hit on a really key word as it relates specifically not only to separation anxiety, but any other problematic behaviors that need to be modified, and that is patience. Training, we were talking about this just prior to going live. Training is teaching a dog something new, and that's relatively easy to teach a new thing. To me, everything is a trick. Sit down, stay, shake, roll over, whatever. Those are tricks in a way, and it's relatively easy to acquire, help your dog acquire new behavior. What's more difficult is shifting an existing behavior and helping that animal, because there's so many other deep issues involved there. And people often don't note the amount of progress that's being made because it's not instantaneous.
Yeah.
So as we begin to talk about some problematic behaviors, is there anything that you recommend for people to help them really calculate or evaluate the progress that their dog is making, so they don't get frustrated?
Well, when I train a dog, and Jean Donaldson, if you're watching, you're going to be very happy when I say this. I always use a training plan, because that's what we're taught, is to always train with a plan. The thing is that oftentimes, we start to teach a dog a behavior. Let's say we'll say coming when called. Mm-hmm. We work on this in a training classroom, and the dog does it beautifully. I say, come here, or whatever word it is, and the dog flies to me, and yay, we're so successful. And then the next day we go to the dog park, and there's 20 dogs, and they're jumping around and whatever, and I say, come here, and my dog just doesn't. And people think, I don't understand. She knew it yesterday. Why is she being stubborn? Why isn't she listening to me? What is going on? And what usually happens is that we teach a dog at like a kindergarten or a pre-K level, and then we instantaneously expect them to be able to function at a graduate, a PhD level. So going from coming when you call them in a classroom to doing it at a park, at the beach, with 20 dogs around, it's two totally different things. By training with a plan, we work incrementally, and we're always, okay, now she can do it at this level. Okay, let's do it outdoors now, because that's a little bit more difficult than just doing it in the house. And then the next time, maybe we do it in the dog park, but there's no dogs there. And, and little by little we grow like that. So I find that usually when people say that their dog just isn't getting it or they're struggling, it's because they're missing all the steps in the middle of that plan to get there.
Okay, I love that you're making that point. Hi, Ann in Birmingham and Steve in Washington. Thank you for joining in. We really appreciate you. You're making an excellent point, and I think that's something that a lot of pet parents, non-professionals have to really be cognizant of, is that this is a process. You're dealing with a different species, right, that speaks a different language, hence we'll get into iSpeakDog in a second, and having the compassion and wherewithal to take it in baby steps. I feel strongly about this, that it's our job, it's my job as the parent of my dog to help them be successful and not set them up for failure. And also step back as the teacher and say, well, okay, if this didn't work in this particular moment, it's what am I doing as a teacher that hasn't gotten through my message across and my coaching across, if you will. So I think that's really important for everybody to learn. Oh, hey, Denise. Denise Fleck is on. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. And Julie, gosh, everybody's popping on now. Great. I love it. Okay, so let's get into that one component about the biggest challenge is understanding what your dog is all about, right?
Yeah.
And what prompted the iSpeakDog? Where were you at, and how did that just begin to come to fruition? And then I want to get into exactly what that is.
Okay, before I answer that, it's getting darker and darker here in Virginia. Can you still see me?
I can still see you, but maybe we could put a light up a little bit more toward you.
Yeah, sorry.
It's still sunshine here. I forgot about daylight savings.
Sorry, I'm realizing that it's everything's fading away as I'm talking to you. Okay, so iSpeakDog. I lived every single day seeing fear on a dog's face. And Emma's an incredibly expressive beagle. Like you can't miss what's going on. And having to watch her every single day to figure out if she's okay when I leave her, when I was working on her separation anxiety and really studying her body language. I started becoming hypersensitive to how dogs were feeling that weren't my dog, So I'm looking at Facebook, I'm watching dogs on the street, I'm seeing dogs at the vet, and I keep seeing dogs who are afraid, but people are missing it. I'd watch these videos on Facebook of these dogs that were being naughty, or like, look how hilarious this is. My dog's being so naughty. And really it was breaking my heart because the dog's scared and needs help. And I saw, let me give you an example of the practicality of where iSpeakDog comes from. Before I was a trainer and Emma was shut down and I was trying to get her to walk outside and she was just not moving. I hired a trainer to come and help me out. And this trainer listened to everything I said about her and told me, well, I think you're coddling her, and I think, she's got control over you and this and that, whatever. And she said, let's get outside and see what's going on. And we go outside, and lo and behold, Emma doesn't walk. She just, she sits down, she doesn't move. And the trainer starts to go, and Emma doesn't move. And so the trainer takes her leash, wraps it around her neck, and starts dragging Emma down the street. Oh. And I sort of froze, like, what is happening? It took me a minute to kind of compose myself, and then I maybe 10 seconds actually. And I made her stop, and I got rid of her, and I picked up Emma, and and took her in the house. And months later, and I just said, you know what, like, there are certain places that Emma's okay walking. If right in front of my house is too scary, I'll pick her up and take her to the place where she's happy walking, and we'll go from there. Months later, I become a student in the Academy for Dog Trainers. And one of the first things that Jean Donaldson teaches us is we have to ask the question in every situation. If we're going to train a behavior, if we're going to change behavior, the first question we have to always ask is this dog upset? And when I looked at Emma, when she was frozen and not walking, and I saw her and realized this girl's terrified. She's not being stubborn. She's not trying to manipulate me. She's too scared to walk. So I started working with her to help her feel comfortable in her environment. And as I did that, as I made her feel more comfortable and as her fears went away, she started walking. And so at iSpeakDog, I worked with the faculty from the Academy for Dog Trainers to come up with a formula to help anybody, a dog guardian, a dog trainer, a veterinarian, a groomer, in any situation, figure out what's the dog doing, is the dog upset, and how do I help this dog? Either way, if the dog is upset, is not upset, what can I do to help them? So that is the very long explanation of how we got to where we are. So that's the basis of it.
So there's 2 points that you just mentioned I want to bring up, and people are starting to ask questions, and I want to encourage you guys to keep asking questions. I promise you I will ask Tracy your question. So please stay on to get the answer. When we talked, I want to mention something about that we are our dog's guardian first and foremost. I believe that. And what you just said, when you hire a professional, we're always under the assumption in hiring a professional that they are a professional and expert at what they do. But there are some times where in your gut, something may be going on that you don't feel comfortable with. And you may not be able to explain it, but it is your right and your duty to act on that and protect the dog first and foremost. And then ask them, ask questions. Because that could be, that what you just described is obviously, was not the right process by any means. So that is an interesting point. And maybe if we have time at the end, we can talk about how does one evaluate when you are dealing with, any trainer for that matter, but in particular, something where you're trying to overcome a problematic behavior. What are the best ways to identify the best trainers for you? But we'll get to that. So, all right. So in iSpeakDog, you have distilled it down to a very simple process, and I love that. It's so easy. Any of us can implement this process. And I'm just going to read the 3 steps, and then I want you to kind of expand on that. And then let's take some examples. Let's look at some of the behaviors and highlight that, because I know context is also a very big thing as well. Her process is this. Number 1, you're asking basically 3 questions. What is the dog doing? What is the body language? And what is going on? Right? Because there may be times where body language might be similar in but different contexts. And so it's a different interpretation. So can you expand on that and how we can apply that?
Yeah, okay. So we're literally, with this 3-step process, we're going to translate what the dog is doing into English for ourselves. And just like the word there in English has multiple meanings, so do different dog behaviors. Sometimes dogs chew when they're scared, and sometimes they chew when they're having fun. Sometimes they growl when they're playing, and oftentimes they growl when they're asking somebody to give them space. So by using the 3 questions, we can figure out what's going on. So let's say, we can take pulling on leash, right? So somebody says to me, my dog is pulling on leash. The knee-jerk reaction would be to say, okay, well, let's get your dog on a front clip harness, because those work beautifully to get dogs to stop pulling, and that'll solve your problem. But there's more to it than that. So step 1, what is the dog doing? Pulling on leash. Okay, we got that. Now we have to look at the dog's body language. What is the dog's body language? When this dog is pulling, is his body loose? Is he, is his tail wagging? Is he bouncing happily? Heading for something, looks, he's got a smile on his face? Or is this dog, when he's pulling, tight, tense? Is the brow furrowed? Are we seeing a lot of eye whites? Do we see, is he baring teeth? Is he growling? Because the first one, the front clip harness is going to work really great for that dog who's got that body language, the happy, wiggly, bouncy body language. But the second body language tells us a different story, and that's a dog who is fearful. So now we go to our third question, which is what's going on, to figure out what's the context. And in a pulling on leash story, let's say there's children running at the dog, and the dog is growling. So the context is there are kids coming at this dog. The context could be in another setting. We're at a dog park, or there's a lump of tripe on the ground and the dog is going to it. So we take the context to figure out, is there a trigger that's causing the behavior? What's going on in the world that's causing this behavior? When we take those three things together, then we can figure out pretty much anything that's going on with the dog. And on iSpeakDog, it's basically an encyclopedia. So when you figure out what the dog is doing, you can then go to the button on the iSpeakDog page that talks about pulling on leash, or growling, or jumping on people, or house training, or whatever it is. And then when you figure out what the dog looks like, you go to the body language gallery on iSpeakDog, and you can compare what your dog looks like to various dogs on our gallery to see what do dogs who are scared or happy or nervous or having fun, what do they look like? Okay.
No, that's great. I was going to say that is such a great resource for everybody, because often a lot of these physical behaviors, physical body language elements that happen can be so subtle.
Yeah.
And once you really become trained at knowing what to look for, and also better interpreting. I mean, I think the most common thing that I've often heard is, I can't believe my dog bit somebody, the tail is wagging. And, that's usually the most common, and yet it's, okay, well, there's a very specific happy tail wag, and there's a very specific agitated or concerned tail wag. And depending on which, it's going to result in, and actually, why don't you just share that with everybody for people who may not know currently?
With the tail wagging?
The basic tail wag, and there's a couple different variations in what those mean.
I actually, I it's not area. I actually don't focus a ton on tail wagging. I'd actually love to hear what yours is.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, when you watch your dog in a natural setting, and you see how their tail wags naturally, oftentimes it's kind of relaxed. Many times, almost parallel to the ground for a lot of dogs. Sometimes a little below parallel, but it's a relatively nice sway, and that's a calm, relaxed wag. Obviously, once it starts going lower, that's more of a fearful, concerned kind of wag. But where the agitation part can come in is where the tail becomes higher up, and it's a rapid tail wag, but you see more of a flip in the end of it, and there's a level so there's a heightened arousal that's taking place in that moment. Now it's a matter of looking at the rest of the context.
Yeah.
Approaching the other dog, what's happening if it's a face-to-face scenario? Is it turning its head? All those other little subtle nuances, but that's often the bite or the lunge or the growl is the distance seeking. So it's often can be preceded by that, and then it's confusing for the owner because it appears the dog's happy. Like, why did that just happen?
Right.
Because the dog's flagging.
Yeah, it's definitely true that you can definitely get fooled by the tail wag. That you got to look at the whole picture to really understand what the dog is, and I do advise people to take it all in. That sometimes we focus on one body part or whatever, but let's look at everything. Like you can't just make an assumption. It's just like somebody saying, well, she growled. She had to, she growled. Well, she was playing with other dogs, and that growl didn't mean the same thing that you think a growl means. Right.
So I'm going to ask a couple questions that people are asking, and you guys pop in some questions if you want. I have a ton, and I don't want to hog the whole thing. But one of the questions comes from Jenny. Let me just scroll back down to it. I don't know if you can see it on your end, Tracy, but. So Jenny's dog Lucy, for example, when they leave the house, their dog will find a shoe or a pencil or a tissue box, etc., and tear it apart. Yet if she leaves her appropriate chew toys or things that she can engage with, she doesn't do that. So the question becomes, what can she do to avoid the destructive behavior that's going on in the park?
You know, I just had this conversation with a client earlier today. We're all familiar with the importance of house training. I mean, everybody knows the first thing you do when you bring a dog into your home is you make sure they know where to pee and where not to pee, right? But I think a lot of people don't realize that it's just as important to do chew training with the dog. That when you bring a new dog into your home, keep the dog in a small enough area that you can control what's in there and make sure that there aren't things that they can chew that they shouldn't. So, you don't want curtains in there and you don't want chair legs and stuff like that. But instead, you put all kinds of different chew toys. You give the dog opportunity to try different chew toys and to figure out what the dog loves. And just as you do with house training, where, little by little, you give the dog more freedom in the home as they learn where to go and what they can do, you do the same thing with chew training. I'm not a believer in punishing dogs for misbehaving. So when I believe in reinforcing the right behaviors, and when it comes to chewing things that they shouldn't, happy talk them away, move them away from the things that they're starting to get into trouble with, and then give them something that you do approve of them to chew on, to teach them little by little, okay, this is what's okay, and that is.
Right. One of the things that you and I were talking about just prior to going live was the whole concept of what is actually going on between the human and the dog, okay? So, I often will ask people what is a good dog, and if certainly they list, and I'm sure all of you out there can just have a Rolodex of behaviors that you consider to be good. At the same time, you have a Rolodex of behaviors that you definitely deem as bad or inappropriate for your home. And what, in essence, we do as people bringing dogs into our family is we're trying to de-dog our dogs, harmoniously. So being cognizant of that, a lot of those behaviors are natural instinctive behaviors. They need to chew, they need to dig, they need to do all those kinds of things. And as Tracy was saying, the importance of the management of your home in teaching what is appropriate, providing focused effort to actually do that and not expect our dogs to know otherwise.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, I don't know if you've ever been asked this or if anybody has said this to you, but I hear it quite a bit, is that my dog is, they're teaching me a lesson, or they're doing this to me, okay? They did it to me, like whether they soiled the house or they chewed something up. But they did it because they were mad that I was gone, etc. How do you help your clients understand that is not necessarily the case?
Well, so there's two ways to think about it. One thing that I found really interesting, there's actually a famous dog expert, Alexandra Horowitz, who's written a number of best-selling books, and she is the head...
Alexandra or Alexander?
Alexandra, R.A. Horowitz. She is with Barnard College in New York, I believe, and heads up the dog cognition lab there. Back in 97, 98, something around then, she did a study testing the guilty look. People always say, oh my God, I came home, my dog peed, and she knew she was not supposed to do that. You could see the look on her face. So what Dr. Horowitz and her team did was they created an experiment where they had people had to leave food out in the room with the dog and tell the dog not to eat it. And then they left. And the researchers, when the people came back in, the food was gone, and the researchers would tell the people whether the dog ate it or not, but they didn't always tell the truth. And the people were then supposed to react accordingly. Punish the dog, scold the dog if we tell you he took it, and I don't want to say, I don't remember exactly how the experiment went. I don't want to make anybody think that they were abusing dogs, but whatever they did, the people were reacting as if the dog stole the food when they wasn't supposed to. Well, at the end of the study, they looked at it, and it turned out that the dogs were making the same look whether they actually did the misdeed or not. And what the experiment proved was not whether or not dogs have a guilty look, but it definitely proved that people who thought their dogs were looking guilty were wrong. And what the look was that they were seeing on their dog was actually fear of being punished. And it's really sad when you think about it. I think what we do, and I think we do it with our kids, we do it with our friends, with our families, we project our insecurities, we project our problems onto others. And a lot of times when our dogs do something that we don't understand, that we just don't appreciate, we assume that some power play is going on. And oftentimes the dog, they didn't know, they didn't know.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And oftentimes too, when we're pulling up to our home, if you have experienced things in the past that your dog may have done, right? Oftentimes you approach your home anticipating walking into that as well. And your whole, your physiology, your blood pressure, the look on your face, even the tension that you're bringing into the home from the experiences you had during the course of the day are evident instantaneously to your dog, because that's how they understand life. Like they're focused on body language and facial expressions and those kinds of things. And we kind of shift, we cause that feeling to happen. And you're right, it's not because they're like, and the other thing too is they don't do it, they don't go, well, they're at work all day, I will show them, I'm going to chew up this shoe and maybe they won't leave me again. They just don't think on those same levels.
Yeah.
You also just mentioned an interesting point though too about bringing our own story into the interaction that we have with our dogs. And can you touch on how frustrating it is for the dog to be living with us at times in terms of what we bring, how we show up?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times it's got to be a little bit hard sometimes to be a dog. I think that, and this is part of why, part of one of my motivations for creating iSpeakDog is when I learned what it means to be a dog, when I learned that dogs don't just like to sniff, they need to sniff, that chewing things is to dogs like playing video games or watching TV or movies is to us, that digging is just joy for some dogs. And that also that dogs greet each other by sniffing faces, by licking faces. And so when dogs come and jump up on us, it's usually because they're really friendly, happy dogs, and they're trying to get access to our face because that's how they say hello, but we're taller than them and they can't do it. And so when I finally learned all of these secrets about what it's like to really be a dog, and I started allowing my dog and my clients' dogs to enjoy all of those things, the relationship that I had with, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, it's just completely transformed my relationship with animals in general. And so I think that if to have the best relationship possible with our dogs, both for ourselves and for them, it's on us to learn about what it is to be a dog and to appreciate their dogginess and to give them those outlets to do that, rather than us getting frustrated because my dog keeps jumping on people or whatever. Like, let's rejoice that your dog is jumping on people and not backing away in terror. And let's teach your dog to do a really polite sit instead of jumping up on people so that we can make everybody happy.
Yeah, that is some very powerful stuff that you just said. And it's so, so, so true. And you know what? Because it's in my nature to take exactly what you just said and apply it to human behavior. Imagine the change in the quality of the relationships that we would have with each other if we could step back for just a second and understand everyone has their story, their own things going on, and not to internalize every bit of behavior that's happening at us or to us, and allowing people the grace to just be at some times in their lives, when it feels like it's just, what do you call it, a confrontation or something like that. But anyway, there's somebody here who's asking a question. So Anne is asking, she's a rescued 3 to 4 month old puppy from the side of the interstate. So gives a little background there. He's now 1, and when she comes home, he's so enthusiastic. She's trained him not to jump up. Yay. But her husband wants the dog to sit and wait patiently until acknowledged.
Okay.
Oh, unfortunately, he has succeeded. She feels like the joy of her arrival home has been stifled or ruined. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I guess the question is, what was the training method? And I hate to. It's a tricky path to go down. I have found, depending on the way that dogs are trained, if a dog is trained to not jump on people using techniques that are designed to scare and hurt the dog, then we can see that that the dogs can sort of they stop behaving a little bit because they're afraid of consequences of behaving in any way. If we train a dog to stop jumping on people by teaching them to do a really good sit stay, and we train it with food, and we use toys, and we do stuff like this, then the dog still has joy. We've just sort of created a new language between us and the dog that we all can speak together, and so the dog's just as happy. And in fact, when we teach a dog to sit instead of jump on people to greet, part of the reward for the dog is when they sit, they don't just get a piece of chicken, but we bend down so that they can finally have access to our face to say hi, which is what they want to do.
Right, and I think too, Anne, possibly is creating a context. So dogs will also learn to behave a certain way, with one person, and then maybe you can use your arrival time as the dog's offering up that behavior, and then as Tracy just stated, that the reward is how you're engaging, and then that becomes the game for your dog, so you can experience the kind of breeding that you want, and then your dog will know, how to engage, I guess, with your husband too. But yeah, that's a good conversation to have, is different training techniques, and that's something that you guys have to research for yourselves too. I mean, there's definitely different schools of thought out there. We're not going to have a conversation on which is right and which is the best, but there are definitely certain ways that enhance the learning process and enhance the results, and more importantly, strengthen the relationship that one has. I mean, nobody ever wants to learn or teach others, ideally, out of fear. We want it to be a natural, joyful experience, just like for us. We want to learn and have it be fun. So that's the other thing. So her husband's not hands-on, just authoritative. Yeah, I understand. So make it fun. Make it fun for you. Like the dog is giving the behavior that he would like, but then your reward is the engagement and how you are interacting. And it certainly can be positive just by the interaction with the release of, okay, that's good.
Yeah, it could even be sit politely and now let's go play. Where's your toy? Where's your toy? Like as soon as I love that. Yes, you can actually so have the dog sit, but then go and do whatever it is that makes that dog joyful. Go for it.
Exactly. So I know I could sit here all afternoon because I have a lot of questions. I know you guys do too. You're welcome, Anne. There's a couple of things. I'm going to ask one last question, and then we're going to wrap up. But here's what I want to tell you guys. First off, go enter to win the drawing, because you get a awesome tote if you're just popping in. I don't know if you saw it. It's all fun and games, so someone ends up in a cone and the matching car magnet to go with it. But you can also win possibly a 30-minute consultation on anything that might be going on with your dog. It could be a simple thing, it could be a challenging behavior. Tracy's going to be happy to help you. And I want to tell you guys this too. So in the old days, before modern technology, you just had to have a trainer come to your home to work with you. And now, with the way things are, you could work with somebody anywhere that's anywhere in the United States. And Tracy offers that service. Her area of, she's a phenomenal trainer all the way around. If she were to pick one sweet spot that is her area of true expertise, and it's certainly a needed area for service, is separation anxiety. I don't want to misspeak, but I think that would be the absolute sweet spot. So you don't have to be in her town to work with her. You can talk to her online, and actually she actually prefers that, in that she gets to evaluate and look at what's going on with your dog in the true context of what is happening in your home. She has a phenomenal training plan and has had tremendous success helping people. So if you have that, if that's a concern for you and what you're experiencing in your home, or if you know somebody who could use that, please have them reach out and talk to her. Would be awesome. And then of course, for you guys, it's not just important learning for you, but it really is quite fascinating. I mean, you will get glued to it. I remember when I was first learning dog stuff, and I just was fascinated by really understanding dog behavior and the body language that went along with that, and getting very clear. It's really fun actually not to be able to go anywhere, and you just kind of know exactly what's going on with those dogs for the most part. And so iSpeakDog.org is a tremendous resource for you as well. The one question I wanted to ask in parting has to do with the separation anxiety, because that's your area of expertise. And after you answer that, if there's anything else you wanted to add, please do. And if questions pop up before we do finish, we'll certainly answer those. If there was one key word of advice or point of advice or tip, if you will, that you would like, that you feel is the most important to share with people trying to handle separation anxiety in their dogs, what would be step one? What is the most important starting place for people?
I think the first place is to recognize that it really is a phobia, no different than my intense arachnophobia or somebody else's fear of heights. Are you with me? Yeah, our home was infested with big furry spiders when I was a kid, and I'm still scarred from that. And you know, separation anxiety presents itself by dogs doing destruction often. You know, they're chewing up door frames and chewing up pillows and peeing on couches, and some dogs will break through windows. I mean, or they're barking so loud, and you live in an apartment building. So it's a really disruptive thing. And so it's easy it's a natural reaction to think my dog is misbehaving. But the truth is your dog is as terrified as 12-year-old me was when like 3 massive spiders were running at my face. Like it's terror. And this is, you know, back to iSpeakDog. If we, in this instance, we're not going to be able to stop the dog from chewing or barking or peeing or whatever by using traditional training methods of, I'm going to give you a piece of chicken, or I'm going to punish you if you do this. The way we're going to get those behaviors to stop is by getting rid of the fear and by helping that dog overcome the fear. And when we can do that, when we can empathize and appreciate that the dog is really scared and help that dog feel safe, those bad behaviors go away.
I love that. Absolutely love it. Tracy, I want to thank you so much for taking time out. I literally could have this conversation with you for the rest of the afternoon. And I'm sure people want us to continue. And I will have you on again to talk on a deeper level on certain things. I love what you just said too, and I want to highlight that about having compassion. Our dogs give to us every single day, every single thing we need, everything we crave as people, the unconditional love, the companionship, and the just sheer joy that we have when we are with them. It is our duty to serve them in that same way. Try to come from a place of compassion and greater understanding so that we can serve them and really tighten and build that relationship, because it's such a beautiful thing, as you've experienced and as many other people I know who have done the same, seeing dogs really shift. What a blessing and what a great life that they can have, and how they impact others when they get to be in their presence. So thank you for sharing that. And one last reminder, something on the fun note is, you guys got to go to the private Facebook group, the lifestyle group. because tomorrow it is going down at Dog is Good. We have so many fun things planned. Actually, I've gotten kind of crazy thinking about all these fun things, and it's going to be really a good time. So I would love for you to come join the party. It's from 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. We want to give people time to get home on the East Coast. We know all us Californians and West Coast people kind of wrap it up mentally in our day around 4, whether we're still at the office or not. So you guys can tune out from work and don't tell your boss it. You can tune into us, and it'll be a great time. So anyway, Tracy, thank you so much. We'll announce the winner in our private Facebook group, the Dog is Good Lifestyle group, and appreciate all of you staying on for this amount of time. It's been a real honor. So thank you so much, Tracy.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay, take care.